Human history is fraught with bizarre ceremonies that appear to hurt modern sensibilities. From burying people alive under a building to consuming corpses as a sign of love. Some ancient practices simply confound our understanding. We begin with arguably the most bizarre and unhealthiest of all the practices, endocannibalism. Endocannibalism involved consuming the remains of a deceased person either as a sign of love for the deceased or to ensure their spirits return to the hamlet. This tradition was popular among some native tribes in South America and the southwestern Pacific. For instance, when a husband passed away among the Wari people of Brazil, the wife's family would roast the flesh of the corpse and consume it in a sitting. It signified the wife's undying love for her husband. Refusal to eat would mean rejection and could cause trouble between the two families. Amahuca Indians in Peru wouldn't consume the meat of their deceased, but would rather pick up the bones, ground them with corn, and prepare it into a gruel-like meal. The Japanese didn't eat corpses either. However, they practice a far more bizarre and frankly painful tradition known as Hitto Bashira. This custom involved burying people alive under buildings to ensure the structure's integrity. However, this practice was only reserved for large buildings and projects such as dams, castles, and bridges. According to ancient Japanese folklore, the Kitagawa and Mamuka rivers constantly overflowed their banks and posed a danger to the people living around the area. The people erected several defense walls, sadly to no avail, as the rivers easily broke through them. Fortunately, the emperor had a dream where he was told to sacrifice two people, Kawakubi and Koromono-ko, to the deities of each river before building the next defense walls. Excited by the revelation, the emperor sent his guards to secure these two people and ready them for the sacrifice. Unfortunately, Koromono-ko escaped, but Kawakubi was unlucky. The soldiers found and threw him into the Kitagawa River after a prayer was said. Did it work? Well, your guess is as good as mine. But one thing is for sure, the practice continued long after Kawakubi was thrown into the river. So maybe it worked and maybe it didn't, who knows. Interestingly, existing structures in Japan such as the Marauka Castle, the Matsu Ohashi Bridge, and the Matsu Castle have survived all these centuries thanks to Hitto Bashira. Maybe. Now, in our next segment, you may wish to have an aspirin or two, as I'm about to tell you about trepanning. While the name has a nice ring to it, I can't say the same for its practice, as it is rather excruciating. Trepanning, also known as trepanation, involves drilling a hole into the skull of patients to treat various ailments. Some cultures also use the painful procedure to exorcise people believed to be possessed by demons. They believe demons could be trapped inside a person's head and cause all sorts of mental illnesses, such as schizophrenia and epilepsy. Thus, drilling a hole into the cranium would create a means of escape. So, I guess we're going to ignore the ears, nose, and mouth as alternative routes of escape? Many European countries later outlawed this practice because of the many risks that it posed to patients, not to mention the extreme pain that came with it. And sadly, there were no pain relievers. Interestingly, trepanation gave birth to craniotomy, a modern-day complex surgical procedure that also involves drilling a hole in the head. It is less risky, less painful, and more effective at removing fluids in the head than trepanation. So while ancient methods were crude and agonizing, their inventions have benefited us. Therefore, they get a thumbs up. Do you know who else deserves a thumbs up? You do, for sticking with us thus far. Plus, it's a bonus for me, as I get to bring to you exciting and weird tales from the past. So if you don't mind, go ahead and smash the like button, and perhaps you would consider subscribing as well, so we can continue offering you more intriguing historical stories. Now, where was I? Oh yes, reaching for the painkillers. Now then, speaking of intriguing stories, we can all agree that white teeth are a vital part of modern beauty standards, right? Of course, how else do you explain a billion-dollar industry of dental products? But what if I told you that centuries ago, white teeth were an eyesore? Yes, black teeth were the beauty standard, and anyone who kept their teeth white was considered less than an animal. Thus, it wasn't surprising to find Japanese women intentionally blackening their teeth to attract potential suitors. So, I suppose this would have been a time of high fashion for hillbillies. Curiously, men were not left out of the bizarre fashion craze either. Usually, men who suffered sword blows to the head on the battlefield would blacken their teeth and would wear women's makeup to hide their scars. In the 17th century, the teeth blackening trend became so treasured that only men in the imperial house of Japan and the aristocracy were allowed to enjoy the luxury. Sorry, ladies. Oh, and need I mention that teeth sharpening was a thing as well? It was as popular as Botox is today, although I can't vouch for its efficiency. Frankly, I think sharpened teeth would make one look like Count Dracula's cousin, but that's just my impression. And just when I thought I'd hit the rock bottom of unusual ancient practices, I came across footbinding. This outlandish beauty trend included twisting one's feet into very uncomfortable angles just to make them look cute and dainty. You'd be forgiven to think it was a painless process because of its beauty goals. But trust me, the pain was more harrowing than pulling out one's own tooth. The main idea was for women to twist and mangle their feet to fit 3-inch shoes so that they could get married. Men, especially wealthy ones, found big feet unattractive and would endlessly mock women with duck-like feet. These taunts and rejections forced young girls to break all their toes except the big one and twist them inwards. But the pain didn't end there. Depending on the foot size, the practitioners would bend the top part of the foot, almost crumbling the bones in there. The ladies then bound their feet with a series of bandages to keep them in shape and prevent them from returning to their normal posture. Thankfully, this beauty trend was banned in 1912, although a few women who did survive the practice recounted the horrors to journalists in 2007. According to one grandma in her late 80s, she regretted binding her feet just to get a suitor. But she doesn't blame herself. It was, however, the order of the day, and failure to follow suit meant that she wouldn't have a husband. Sadly, she ended up with an opium-addicted husband who wouldn't lift a finger to help her. Imagine going through all that pain just to not live a happily ever after. Today, she finds it difficult to move, dance, and even walk properly, as her feet can't support the full weight of her upper body. However, if you think feet binding is the weirdest beauty trend ever, then be sure to watch our video, Goddess Glow: Weird Ancient Beauty and Care Rituals. You can click on it here, and I'll see you there. And until next time, thanks ever so much for watching.